Brody Nugent nudged Vic's elbow as they edged past a woman bargaining over tomatoes, her laughter rising above the traffic's dull hum. "Bet you won't ask for a discount?" Brody grinned, already pocketing a stray lime off the vendor's cart. Mannequin drifted a few paces ahead, weaving through clusters of shoppers, his backpack bouncing and shoes leaving faint prints on the damp pavement. The city pressed in, humid, lush, the blue tarps overhead dripping slow from the last rain. Vic's palms felt sticky as he gripped his cycle's handlebars, the newness of the moment prickling under his skin. "Monsoon makes everyone bold, yeah?" Manny called back, eyes catching Vic's for a second before darting away. Harvey Tacker, trailing behind, kept an easy pace, calling out, "Don't lose your nerve, V, or your wallet. Mumbai's got quick hands." Brody snorted, flicking the lime up and catching it, his voice softer now. "You think Slum G ever felt like this? Like you're just—" He trailed off, swallowed by a horn's sharp blast and the billboard's harsh glow. Vic looked up at the rolling storm above the wires, trying to picture what it meant to belong somewhere and not just be passing through. Vic wheeled his bike to the edge of the pavement as Brody caught up, flicking the lime into the gutter and grinning at a trio of delivery cyclists clustered near the hotel's neon-lit entrance. The street churned with honking rickshaws and the clang of distant construction. A woman in black swept past, eyes fixed ahead, while Percy lingered at Vic's shoulder, glancing down at the battered seat and nudging. "Bro, you really need a cushion or it'll ruin you for life." Across the road, a cow nosed at a green bin, indifferent to the swirl of commuters and food carts, and Jude shifted his backpack, steady and silent, as if anchoring them to this spot. Behind, Harvey's voice rose above the din. "Don't look lost, V, just pick a lane and act like you know where you're going." And Vic tried to laugh, his fingers drumming the handlebars, but the sound came out thin. The city pressed close, men checking their phones, stray wrappers on the curb, the warm, uncertain air of evening. With every glance at his friends, Brody's easy jokes, Percy's sideways smile, Jude's quiet watchfulness, Vic felt something in between settle in his chest, as if growing up was less about sudden leaps and more about finding your place in the crowd, even if you had to carve it out between a row of bikes and a restless cow. Vic paused at the curb beside the mall's shining glass, the tail end of Brody's joke dissolving into the push and pull of traffic. Rickshaws slipping past, a scooter's engine whining over the low hum of voices. The air was thick with heat, and that not quite sunset glow, palm fronds casting shadows across the lines of cars. Percy nudged Vic's shoulder, nodding toward the woman in the patterned kurta as she balanced her bags, eyes flicking between the snarl of vehicles and the green-lit sign for Game Palace. "She's braver than us, man," Percy murmured. And Vic found himself watching her, how she didn't hesitate, just stepped forward when the autos slowed, trusting the city to make space. Brody leaned against his bike, drumming fingers on the seat, half listening to Henry's running commentary about secret rickshaw signals and the best places to score cheap faluda. Vic's phone buzzed in his pocket. Another message from the group chat, something about which city felt most like home. But he let it go unread for now, caught in the feeling that everyone else already knew how to move through the rush, as if growing up was just a matter of stepping out at the right moment and hoping the world would part for you. The restaurant was brighter than it needed to be, the kind of white light that made everything look a little more real. Stainless steel thalis lined up on the table, papad curling at the edges, chutneys oozing into small tin bowls. Vic sank into the hard back chair, straw hat pushed up over his brow, glancing once at Percy, who was studying the menu upside down. "You ordering or just memorizing?" Vic asked, voice softer than he meant, but Percy just grinned and nudged the glass of water his way. Jude sat across from them, tearing a piece of dosa with slow, careful fingers, barely glancing up as the server placed a second tray on the table and murmured, "Anything else?" The air conditioner clicked on with a gentle hum, the only thing moving faster than time in that moment. For a while, no one said much. Percy watching the ceiling fan, Vic breaking off a bit of papad and tasting it like a dare. Jude tracing invisible lines on the rim of his plate. Outside, a car horn wailed and faded. "You ever feel like you're faking it?" Percy said suddenly, not looking at anyone. Vic chewed, the papad sharp, and shrugged. "Doesn't matter if you are," Jude replied, voice steady, a small smile tugging at his lips. "Food tastes the same either way." That made Percy laugh, a short, bright sound that tangled with the clatter of dishes and the babble from the next table. As if, just for a second, the world was waiting for them to figure out where they belonged. The night pressed in, thick and electric, as Percy balanced on the curb beside Vic, pointing out the man in the security uniform fiddling with his motorbike beneath a splash of neon. "You think he ever gets to just ride?" Percy wondered, voice half lost under the buzz of engines and laughter slipping from the snack shop behind them. Jude stood a little back, hands in pockets, scanning the endless parade of headlights and umbrellas, eyes blinking at the reflection of scooter lights in puddles. Somewhere close, Henry's voice floated. "Mumbai's just a pinball machine after dark. Mind you don't get bounced by a rickshaw, V." Vic hesitated, glancing at his own cycle, the basket still damp, and caught Jude's steady gaze. "Street's alive tonight," Jude said quietly, as a couple weaved past, their flip-flops splashing. Vic's phone buzzed, a message from Sonny. "Spider, by your left shoe, LOL." Percy grinned, then nudged Vic's foot gently with his own, an unspoken dare. "Blow it off," he said, mock serious. The stream of bikes and rickshaws kept moving, the city never pausing for anyone's small fears. Vic bent, flicked something invisible from his sandal, feeling the eyes of his friends on him. Not judging, just there, as if every clumsy moment was another ticket punched on the way to somewhere new. Vic steered his bike into the river of headlights, the basket rattling, Brody jogging alongside and shouting over the horns. "Bet you can't make it to the truck before that rickshaw does." The heat from the street lamps pressed down, making everything sharper. The flash of a woman's bangles as she darted past, the orange truck hulking like a promise of safety, motorcycles weaving around them as if the rules were just rumors. Jude drifted behind, hands in his pockets, gaze steady on Vic's back tire. "Careful, V. There's oil on the road," he called, voice quiet but sure. And Vic glanced down without answering, his grip tightening as he threaded the gap between two autos. The city's thrum pulsed through his arms and chest, louder than his nerves. But Brody just grinned, flicking sweat from his forehead. From somewhere in the crowd, Janine's voice came soft through Vic's earpiece. "Almost home, G. Don't forget to hydrate." And Vic smiled, though no one could see it. Brody nudged his shoulder, eyes bright. "You ever think about just going straight, no matter what's in the way?" Vic didn't answer. He just pedaled into the glow, feeling the in-between stretch out with every turn. The world both too big and suddenly just his size. The stairs felt longer than they looked, each step echoing with the clatter of Hal's helmet against his backpack, and Jude's quiet breath as he gripped the railing, shoulders tense but face calm. At the top, the stray dogs barely lifted their heads. They belonged here in a way that made Hal pause, watching the flicker of their ears in the temple's golden spill. "You think they dream about running?" Hal asked, voice low, a joke that didn't quite reach his eyes. Jude shrugged, gaze steady on the lit doorway, the orange-robed priest arranging marigolds by the statue, sunlight trapped in the folds of his shawl. Inside, incense curled above the stones, and for a moment, the city's noise faded to the hush of slippers on tile, a world apart from the road outside. Hal hesitated near the threshold, helmet in his hand, then nudged Jude gently and nodded toward the glowing altar. "Go on, man," he said, forcing a grin. "Make a wish or something." Jude only smiled back, the kind of smile that promised nothing but understood everything, and together they stepped inside. Backs damp, shoes squeaking, neither quite sure what they wanted, but both knowing this wasn't a place for answers, just somewhere to be. In between, the rush and the quiet, the street felt bigger at night, the old yellow bulbs pushing back just enough of the dark to show the things that stayed and the things that moved. Hal's voice carried from the row of bikes where he sat with a loose circle of older boys, his laugh ringing out as he nudged a sandal against the curb. Jude was quieter, leaning against a lamppost, eyes following the cricket ball as it skipped beneath the arms of a sari-clad woman, her words soft but sharp as she shepherded the smallest kids away from the gutter. Past them, a cyclist, someone about their age, maybe younger, threaded through the slow traffic, backbent, head down, vanishing between the white SUV and the spill of light from the shop fronts. Hal glanced up, meeting Jude's gaze for a beat. Neither spoke, but the moment stretched between them. Something in between understanding and longing. "You see that guy?" Hal asked, nodding after the cyclist. "Moves like he's got somewhere to be." Jude smiled, brief and lopsided, digging his hands deeper into his pockets. "Maybe he does," he said, as the woman's laughter drifted over the noise, and a pack of neighborhood dogs turned circles by the steps. For a second, it all felt suspended. Old buildings, lit windows, friends who might not always be close, but tonight were close enough. Janine's text blinked on Jude's phone. "Don't stay out too late, okay?" He didn't answer, just watched the street fill up and empty out, knowing that tomorrow might look the same but feel different, that growing up was mostly about learning when to linger and when to move on. The rain came down in sheets, drumming against the tarpaulin and pooling in the cracks of the road, everything silvered and shifting under the streetlights. Vic pressed himself beneath the wide branches, jacket pulled tight, while Hal shook the rain off his hair and squinted at the blur of headlights slicing through the night. Brody leaned against the blue-covered truck, sneakers half-soaked, tapping a rhythm against the metal as he grinned. "You get the feeling we're extras in someone else's movie?" A splash from a passing rickshaw sent water arcing up the curb, and Hal laughed, shoving Brody gently. "We're not extras, man. We're just waiting for the director to show up." Vic watched their breath cloud in the humid air. The world momentarily paused, bikes covered in plastic, strangers shoulder to shoulder under drooping trees. All of them, stranded by weather and whatever came next. Across the street, Janine's umbrella bobbed between parked cars as she called out, "You all right over there? Or just growing roots?" Her voice lifting above the rain, warm and teasing. Vic nodded, not trusting himself to answer, feeling the night crackle with something in between. The ache of being stuck, but not alone. The quiet thrill of belonging in a city that never fully lets you in, but never quite lets you go. Vic lounged back on the brown cushion, the hum of the ceiling fan rising and falling over the quiet ping of his phone. Each notification half swallowed by the late hour. Hal sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed, one sock on, scrolling through messages with a lopsided grin. "Brody says he's found a scarier way to wake you up tomorrow," Hal said, voice low and teasing, thumb flashing the screen so Vic could see the endless stream of frog emojis and half-finished jokes. Vic shook his head, laughter spilling out before he could catch it, the kind that left his cheeks aching in the best way. On the other side of the room, Janine's voice drifted from the hallway, warm as the light that pooled on the worn tile. "You boys want chai before you crash?" And Hal called back, "Only if you promise not to quiz us about the spider again, Auntie." Vic caught his own reflection in the dark glass of his phone, hair still damp, smile lingering even as the chat buzzed with, "Take care, bro," and "What's the plan for tomorrow?" He didn't answer right away. For a moment, the room was just soft laughter, the weight of the day easing from his shoulders, the sense